Imagine walking into Home Depot and you spend 6 months asking questions, comparing drills, drill driver, hammer drill, impact drill. And finally, someone walks over and says, "Hey, you spent a lot of time here. What is it that you're trying to build?" You do this, you say, "You know what? I don't really know. I don't know yet." And so when you see that, that is, a client. I'm going to call him Jerry just for this. And I already asked his permission, but I want to tell you about a conversation, an exchange that I had exactly like what I just said. And he came to me initially with a clear vision. He wanted to build a lasting legacy, a warehouse of wealth, something he and his wife could pass down to their 3 kids and their future grandkids, and really change the pattern that had existed in his family for years. And he did the work. He read Nelson Nash's book, right? He read this book that belongs next to every Bible. He watched the training video. We had a strategy call. We had the follow-up. We started the application process. And as always, I say, be the polite squeaky wheel. And the email started. And first it was, "Jason, I need to check the IRR, the internal rate of return on One America policies and the mutual companies that you work with. Then I need more liquidity than I thought. Then, hey, can you show me a 1090? Because I've heard they give high liquidity. Then, actually, the life insurance benefit is secondary to me right now. I want the most cash value and the lowest death benefit possible." Every email or every single one of those lines was a different thing. And here's what I realized reading and responding and going back and forth in this thread. Jerry wasn't confused about the policy. Jerry didn't have a clearly defined final objective. Did anyone else feel that when I was sharing? He was comparing drills before he even knew what he was building. And I see this each and every single week. People have watched every Chris Noggle video, over 1,000 videos. Read Nelson's book, watched all of my videos, compared illustrations from 3 different certified practitioners, talked to multiple practitioners, and they still haven't started. They're stuck in analysis paralysis because nobody asks them the right question first. And today I'm going to show you what that question is. And hopefully you'll write it down and why the answer to it makes everything else extra. Carrier design, PUAs, funding, the funding level, the loan strategy, it makes everything completely obvious. So stay with me as, imagine walking into your Home Depot or your Lowe's, whatever is your favorite, and you spend 6 months comparing those things. And all of a sudden you realize that you don't know what you're trying to build. And so that's what I'm going to show you today is how you can build and get the build perfect every single time, regardless. So before you talk to anyone about the infinite banking concept, right? IBC, including myself, you need to answer one question first. Again, I'm going to give it to you at the end because your time is valuable and you're here because you all want more. You wouldn't keep coming back every week if you weren't getting something that gives you or moves you closer to your goal. So I want you to stay with me to the end today because I'm going to show you that one question that I ask on every single strategy call. And fun fact, it's changed since I talked to you. And the question that can make, and again, it can make the policy design obvious. The question that eliminates the confusion around the carriers and everything else, all the other details, all the things that keep people stuck in that analysis paralysis. And I want you to answer it today, not on a call with me, but before we ever reconnect or before we ever connect. And not after you watch another video or read another blog or ask AI another question about how do you do this the most efficiently, most effectively, but today, by yourself, before you talk to anybody, because here's what I've learned after 4,500 and counting strategy sessions. The people who come to the call already knowing the answer to the question, they move forward every single time. And better, they get approved and they execute. The people who come without it, we spend the whole call trying to find it. And sometimes they never do. And they end up missing out completely. There's maybe folks here that have been around this for months and years that haven't taken the next step. So I want you to answer the one question today. And if you want to build the system around your answer, I'll be here. So let's talk about these client conversations I had this week. All right. I'm gonna give you two different situations. I had two different people, completely different situations, but the same problem. And again, we're going to go back to Jerry for the example today. But before I get into the three things that I want to show you, here's where this idea came from. Like this conversation came from. Different people, different income levels, different ages, different locations, different goals, different backgrounds, different careers, same pattern. Both came in asking about the policy design. Both came in asking about the carrier, asking about the fee structure, asking about the base of the whole life, the commissions, the paid up additions, the loan rate, what's the IRR? And both of them, without realizing it, we're asking the wrong question, which again is why I ask people, do I have permission to be direct? And all of you have given me permission. So here we are. And their questions that they were asking and their thinking wasn't because they're not smart. They're both sharp, both super successful, both in the top 5%, even top 1% of our country. But somewhere in their research phase, the videos, the blogs, the illustrations, the question shifted from what problem am I trying to solve today and where do I want to be in the future to what policy is best. And those are completely different conversations. You know, I don't engineer policies. I engineer banking systems. I engineer control. We engineer guarantees. And today I want you to see the difference. I want you to feel it, but I want you to see visually the difference. Because that difference is why some people build something that changes their family's financial trajectory and why others spend months, if not years, comparing illustrations and they never start. They never feel ready. Here's the first lie in the infinite banking concept rabbit hole, like the research rabbit hole. I've been down that whole rabbit hole. Have you guys? There's a perfect policy. This is the first lie. There's a perfect policy. And if you just compare enough illustrations, enough carriers, enough designs, enough opinions through enough practitioners, you're going to find the one that feels like the right fit. So you watch another video, you read another blog, you schedule another call, you shop around, you ask another advisor to run another illustration, and you still haven't started. Here's the truth. A hammer is not better than a screwdriver, right? A saw isn't better than a hammer. It depends on what you're building. The policy designed to eliminate $80,000 in bad debt as fast as possible with limited cash flow looks completely different from the policy design to maximize first-year liquidity for a real estate investor that has surplus money sitting in a traditional bank account or in a money market. Two different scenarios. The policy built to create a tax-free retirement income looks different from the one that's built to fund a business. The policy for a 35-year-old starting fresh looks different from the 52-year-old who needs maximum immediate protection for their business, for their life, for their family. Because term keeps getting more expensive when we're at halftime at 52. Again, none of those designs are better than the other one. They're better at solving different problems. And I like to say there's always trade-offs. So when Jerry asked me to show him a 1090 design, more PUA, less base, I didn't immediately say, yeah, sure, client's always right. Let me redesign that for you. Instead, I asked him something. Has your objective changed? Because the design I built was solving the problem that you and your wife told me that you wanted to solve. Problem change, right? And that's because she's a stay-at-home. They've got 3 kids. She's got a business she's running. And I said, we need to talk about the problem first. Then we'll talk about the design. That's the first shift. Stop asking, what's the best policy? Start asking, what's the best policy for the job you're actually trying to do? So let's look. Let me show you what I actually mean. Let me share my screen. And you can see this, right? So I actually grabbed the illustration because I want you to see not only the vault, but I want to show you what the breakdown is because I want to show you the different pieces that I'm looking at as your engineer, your money mentor. So here's what it might look like if we're solving for a warehouse of wealth and for death benefit. So Jerry saves about $24,000 a year and it goes into a money market. This is super simple. We didn't have him work any harder. We had him just redirect his savings into the system. And I put 12,000 annually, and this is after a lot of back and forth, but 12,000 annually going towards the base. That gives him over $522,000 of cash of death benefit, and $12,000 going towards the paid up additions. That's higher cash value and lower death benefit. No riders needed. You know, like my name, it's simple, it's flexible, and that's the beauty of this. This guy's a builder. He expects to have more capital in the future. He has some investments. He has money to invest. He has a very successful career. So I designed a system that he can go down, right? Talk about the manageable floor to $1,010 a month if he needs to. We built it to hold $24,000 a year, but he can go up an additional 36 grand a year above that number. He doesn't have to reset the clock every time. He doesn't have to come back and start and expand his warehouse of wealth. This is what I've learned over the last 4,500 plus calls and helping so many people get started. The simpler we are, the more sophisticated it actually is. And that sounds a little counterintuitive because we all love to engineer and over-engineer things. But now he has protection from day one, over $500,000. He has a system that scales with him, and he has total control. Total control. So right now we're talking about the tools, right? You're in Lowe's, you're looking at all the drills, and now you want to say, hey, you know, I do appreciate what Jason's saying. I know he's going to give me that one question here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and look at the exact strategies that were created for Jerry. And before we do that, if you're finding this information, right, this channel valuable, go ahead and click below, subscribe to that channel, smash some buttons, and ring the bell so you're alerted to all the new content that's coming out, because these are your questions. Thousands and thousands of questions being answered right here live from the calls that I actually have. It's not about, hey, what's the perfect thing? It's about what is perfect for you. So let's hop back in, smash, like, subscribe, and invite whoever you think needs this so they can find this information as easy as possible. And so let's look at the vault here. So in the vault, year one, again, it's a very basic policy. It's like my fourth policy. 50% goes directly to the cash value. Death benefit covers all of his debts, leaves his family, his kids in a better place if, God forbid, he graduates. And by year three, the policy is almost efficient, making every dollar that he puts in almost give him more than $1 back. Again, this is simple. It's flexible. There's 3 guarantees. Guaranteed 3.25% tax-free growth, guaranteed level premium, and a guaranteed death benefit. And this is where it gets interesting. After we applied, after we started the process for this, he sent me that message I was sharing and said, hey, I want the lowest death benefit and the highest liquidity. And I had asked some additional questions. You'll see the numbers change here in a second. But do you feel his thinking? The job changed, right? The job changed in that moment. And when that job changed, we had to change the tool. We had to go get a different tool. So let's look at the same guy, same carrier. I didn't want to throw too many variables into this. Same age and a different tool, completely different tool. Here, Jerry's putting in $100,000 in day one, $15,000 a year into the policy. He's dropping in an $85,000 additional single paid up addition rider at issue. And that single move supercharges the cash value, right? It drives it up. And you can see there's already way more lines and way more parts to this system than there was to the other system. But now what he locks in, like some of the trade-offs, now he has over 88% cash value in year one. He has the majority of that immediately accessible within the first 30 days as cash value. The death benefit jumps up almost triple, $1.631 million. Now he's definitely covering every liability, every car, the home, and leaves his family in a position to not just survive, but thrive, right? If he did pass away, God forbid, in that time, the 100 grand sitting in a money market just became $1.6 million. That's bonkers. And now all the cash value is growing at the guaranteed 3.25% tax-free. And simultaneously, he's able to use that same money as a line of credit without ever interrupting the growth to fund an investment that he believes is going to yield him 12 to 15%, right? He's putting the money to work like the banks do, and he's making a spread. The money's working twice, the living benefits, and it's doing a third job of protecting. So now the money's working once inside the policy, it's compounding guaranteed, it's most likely earning a dividend, and it's working once in the investment. This is exactly what the banks do, folks. It's exactly how the wealthy operate. And it's not because they found the best policy. It's because they defined, right? The question that's coming soon. They define the job first. And then we build the right tool. Jobs defined, outcomes defined, resources are identified, and we go, okay, now we got it. Now we're on target. And so I want to ask you, like, pop in the chat, is this design better than the first one? No, right? No. Is it better for a specific job? Completely. More parts to understand, more moving pieces, but every piece, there's a reason, right? We're avoiding it becoming a modified endowment contract. We're making sure that you can add additional paid up additions in years 2 and on. We're defining all of these things together. And this, right? This is where what I teach and the way that I mentor and guide, right? How I lead you all to do what I've done in my life. This is where my philosophy separates, I believe, from the majority of people in the space. I don't sell policies. I solve problems and opportunities by building banking systems, a solution that you understand what the trade-offs are. That's it. It's where you store your capital that funds a system. It's the foundation and it's the ceiling. It's not the whole thing though. It is the tool to do a specific thing now, and it'll be a different tool later on as you go out over time. And while you're using all the living benefits, right? Like I just said, eventually this foundation becomes the ceiling. Why? Because it's multiplying over generations. This is the Rockefeller waterfall method. This is why it works, because it's over time. It's long range thinking. And then eventually additional policies, family banking, opportunity fund, debt recapture engine, business capital reserve, retirement income, legacy planning. You know, that's what Jerry said he wanted in the first conversation, a lasting legacy, a warehouse of wealth. That's a banking system conversation. But again, somewhere in that research phase, he started asking all these different questions that were completely, great questions, but completely the opposite. It was like going from hip hop to going to country. Like I was like, wait, what? The station changed. My brain said, I don't get it. And he's not a policy shopper. He's already done the work. But with people that are shopping like this, that little bit of confusion, right? That confused mind, they'll never move forward. They never start because there's always more than one thing to compare. The most important thing that anyone can do in any part of their life is start. Bankers start. They start with a problem. They build the first warehouse. They learn and use the system that operates it, and they expand from there. Like Connor, right? You guys all know Connor, my 12-year-old son. He's a banker. He has one policy. He took his first loan. He didn't pay it back. We had to put some different things in place. Now he built a PC. We talked about that. He's learning the banking function by doing this. He didn't compare illustrations. He doesn't even look at our illustrations. He just started. And he started with the guidance of this is how it works. For him, the perfect policy didn't exist. The right system does. And when you start, your system begins maturing immediately. That's more powerful than waiting until things are perfect. And again, that system, that one system starts with just one question. And the one question, if we could just solve, here it is, like write this down somewhere, maybe pop it in the chat if someone's taking notes for me. If we could just solve one financial problem in the next 3 years, what would it be? Or said differently, if we're 3 years from today and you're super stoked about your financial progress, what would need to be true? Same question, just ask differently. Do you feel the weight of the question though? The weight is, well, hey, where do you want to be? Where do you want to be 3 years from now? And what financial problem that is making you feel stuck or making you feel like your life could be so much better? You make great money, but you know it could be better. If that shifted, what's going to be true in 3 years? Like, what would that be? That question is a question that we talk about or I ask on every single strategy call. Because again, we want your clear destination. I'm not starting with, hey, what's your income? How much are you saving? How much do you want to put in this? Have you looked at the carriers yet? Do you want to go with a direct recognition company, an indirect recognition company? Hey, do you want your company to be 137 years old, 121 years old, 149 years old? Do you need your company to be a $120 billion company, a $100 billion company? Right? We start getting all these questions and it'll drive us crazy. It's as simple as if we could just solve one financial problem or one financial opportunity in the next 3 years, what is it? What would it be? That one answer, that drives everything. That answer is, Jason, I want to eliminate my debt as rapidly as possible. When I understood how much interest I'm paying to everybody else, it makes me mad, Jason. I don't want to be here. Okay, we're going to design that policy for that specific job. That's the tool. Policy design, the funding level, the loan strategy, the repayment plan, all with where you are financially today. All of it orients around debt elimination. We build the fastest path from where you are to being debt-free, to recapturing as much interest as possible, paying yourself back, having a big amount of opportunity fund, and death benefit, the cherry on top. If the answer is, I want to stop being last in line for my own money, we build the liquidity layer first. We get the system funded. We build it to have more flexibility. So as you have more certainty, you can put more into it. Then you get the first loan structure in place. You understand how to do it. You read your portal. You start doing the banking things. You start asking the questions, can I add additional paid up additions? If the answer is, hey, Jason, I'm at the point in my life where I know that I didn't do the most optimal things in my life, but I want my kids' life to start differently than mine. We're designing around legacy. That's what we did for Jerry. We're also looking at kids' policies. We're looking at building a family system. That way they inherit a system that we start young, and by the time they're my age, I think is a rocket ship. If the answer is, hey, I have capital that I want to use to expand my business, that's going to be a completely different tool, different sequence, different outcome. The policy becomes obvious when the destination is obvious. If we don't know the destination, then it's either on me to help pull that out of you, or it's on you to own it and come prepared. That's a strategy conversation. This is strategic thinking over a long period of time. So that's what I want you all to take away from today. Before your next conversation about IBC, and yes, Sean, this is what we're going to talk about today. It's whether, you're a practitioner or maybe you're licensed like Kelly, you're talking about your spouse, you're talking about your kids, you're talking about other insurable interests. The first thing is the question, what financial problem am I trying to solve now? Not the best policy, because once that's clear, everything else stops becoming noise, right? Everything else is noise. I mean, you're talking about pennies. I think Nelson Nash used to say something like this. You're talking you're picking up pennies and nickels and dimes, but you're walking past dollars and $100 bills because you're stuck without the proper vision of where you're going. And so if we put these three things together, right? If I kind of go back to what we were talking about throughout this whole session today, one, there is no perfect policy. There's no perfect carrier. That's why I'm contracted with 4 and looking at a 5th carrier. A hammer isn't better than a screwdriver. A saw isn't better than a hammer. It just depends on what you're building. You might need all of them, but what's most important? And that's where it becomes fun too. We start shopping and it's fun to go shop. It's fun to look at the different things, go to Lowe's, Home Depot, go on Amazon, and we start shopping for the best design and start defining the job. No, we want to define the job first. Number 2, the numbers only matter once the problem is clear. Internal rate of return, dividends, loan rates, policy service fees. Those aren't the wrong questions, but they're literally talking about the difference between $50 a year and $150 a month not month, but a year for doing it monthly. It's a $100 difference. So yes, I want you to know all those things, but it's the wrong first question. Again, the first question is always, what am I solving? And the third one, you're not buying a policy. You're building a banking system. And you need someone that knows and does this over and over. And this is all they concentrate on. You're not buying a policy. You're building the system, and the system is your first warehouse. The system is what grows over time. And it's not supposed to replace investments. It's not supposed to be the place we're putting our money so it makes us more money. No, it's the place where we build liquidity to have that money go do work for us so we can stop working. That's our simple family plan. $1 million, year 10, go out to work for me. And over time, more policies, more family members, more problems solved, infinite problems solved. Sound familiar? Again, goal isn't to find the best illustration. There is no such thing. It's actually, I'm going to say this, it might come off a little bit harsh. It's dumb. It's frankly dumb, because I can show you the same illustration I showed you earlier. And if Jerry funds it the way I showed him, it'll work pretty much right on target, if not even a little better than I showed him. If he goes down to the manageable floor in years 2, 3, 4, and 5 and doesn't start funding it and putting in more paid up additions to year 6 again, hey, it's not going to work like I showed him, right? It's the action that's behind the system that really drives it. It's how do you use it? It's like one person might get a new vehicle, and everywhere they go, I mean, you've driven with this person, they're slamming on the gas and your head's flying back and they're slamming on the brakes. And they're like, man, this car is always breaking down. And another person has the same car, same amount of miles on it, but they drive not slow. They drive the speed limit a little faster. They brake nice and slow where your head's not snapping. They're not snapping your neck back when they pull out. Their car never breaks down. It's how we use it, how we drive it. And so let me show you what the next steps look like, right? Now that you know it's not just the tools, what's next? Again, you got the one question. Hopefully you wrote it down. I didn't see anybody grabbing it there, but you can always grab this and we can share it with a friend. But one question, your answer, your system. I will always meet you exactly where you're at. You want to talk about your business, you want to talk about your life. I want to know you. I want to know what it is that you want. Like what's here and what's here and how do we tie them together? Then we start building your picture around your first problem. Then you decide. And here's what happens on every strategy call with me. I ask you the one question: if we could solve one financial problem in the next 3 years, what would it be? And how would that feel? What would that do for you and your family? And we build the whole thing around that picture. There's no magic, just solving your problem, caring for you, doing what's right. Again, it's not a generic illustration. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have done this 4,500 times and had 50 licenses, I would have literally said, punch me in the face. That's stupid. Again, it's not the illustration. It's not generic. It's not a default to sound. When people come to me like, Jason, I need to see this illustration. Cool. Go ask that guy or that gal. I want your problem, your numbers, your system. I want to show you 3 paths where you can stay current, what you're doing. And 3 years from now, you're in the same place, just older. Or I want to show you the plan that you can use math to accelerate. Like I like to get on a call and say, hey, at the end of this call, if that's your goal, elimination, without even doing anything, this call is going to save you $3,000, $5,000, $7,000. I've said it all week. Or, hey, let's build a system. You control. You have guarantees. You see all 3. You decide which one. And you don't commit to anything until I see your full picture. I'm personally running every call at this point. I won't do that forever, just in all transparency. I'm personally building every analysis. I won't be doing that forever either. This doesn't get handed off, but part of legacy is helping the next person do what I'm doing today. So if something clicked today, if you recognize yourself in Jerry's story, or if you're in the person in Home Depot, I love Home Depot. Every time I go there, I think about all the stuff I could do at the house, the furniture I've already built, and think, man, why'd I give those tools away? Like, there's so many things we can do. Infinitely curiosity, infinite solutions. But if you're the person comparing those drills at Home Depot and you don't even know what you're building yet, that's your signal. That's your signal. And from here, there's 2 doors, right? Or 2 paths like Hercules had. Go back to the mythology. There's 2 paths. There's an easy path. You stay on, you keep doing what everyone else is doing. And if if that's you, that's cool. No pressure here. If you're ready, if that one question resonated and you have the answer forming in your head right now, book the call. Click on my link in the next, or scan the QR code. And the answer is where we're going to start. If you're not quite there yet, but you're thinking, you're like, there's something here. I feel like I need to know a little bit more. If you want to understand where your family actually stands before you commit to a conversation, that's a great move. I don't want you wasting your time before you're ready. So take the family financial reality check. I know it's a mouthful, but it takes 3 minutes, covers 4 areas. It's going to show you where you're at with control, liquidity, protection, and legacy. It's going to show you exactly where the gaps are. And better, it's going to give you more tools, more free resources so you can keep learning. And then when you're ready, you'll go ahead and you'll schedule that call. So either way, do something. I want to work with builders who want to act, not just learn. I spent years just learning, and I'm telling you, it's the biggest mistake I've made up to 52 years into life. Go forward, get solutions, put systems in place that help you reach your goals. We only get to do this once. It's not a dress rehearsal, because the only version of this that doesn't work is the one where you heard it, you say you understand it, and you go back to comparing illustrations. I've talked to that guy. I've talked to that girl. Stop shopping for policies. Start designing banking systems. Hey, again, today you saw the power of the right tool. Not using a saw for a hammer's job, but getting clarity on your question, understanding where you are going. And if you found this valuable and you want to, you want to have that strategy call where I'm going to meet you exactly where you're at, go ahead and go below and click on the link to watch the training video and book your strategy call with me personally. Again, I'm limited on how many of those I can do a week. I'm doing everything myself right now. One day it won't be like that. So if you want to have that conversation with me, go ahead, book that strategy call, hop in, and let's have a conversation where we're define your question and where you want to go. And if you're not quite ready, take the assessment. It takes 3 minutes. It's super easy, and it will, I promise, it'll identify 4 areas of your life, and it's going to add massive value and give you so much additional clarity. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, I'm going to see you in this next video. But before I see you here, make sure that you're subscribing to the channel, you're smashing buttons, you're ringing the bell, and you're having some fun with it, helping spread this message, because we weren't taught how money really works. And this shows you that there is a strategy that actually works for you. So be blessed. I appreciate your most valuable resources. I'll see you in the next video. Smash, like, subscribe, spread the message. See you soon.